for Acrolinx software, right? That's what you've been waiting for, and now we're going to start with that.
Good morning and welcome on Platform 9 3/4. I hope you didn't have a hard time finding it, didn't have to go through a wall. I have to say, normally I find US air conditioning kind of a little bit too strong, but so 2 weeks ago in Boston, these gowns worked very well in a room that had 18 degrees, but instead of our little magic wands today, we might have to use our little air devices. So, what we want to talk about today is what's coming out on the Acrolinx platform this year in the product. For those of you who were here last year, I talked a lot about kind of long-term vision. You know, what's our plan for the next 5-10 years out. Today, focus is going to be stuff that we already have released or that will come out in the next few months. We will have some live magic, but I'll start with some stuff where we only have slides first. So we'll do the slideware first, and then live magic a little later. So 3 topics that are on our release roadmap for later this year. First up is learning. And what's the idea here? So the key idea is really we want to be able to learn, to have Acrolinx learn what you need automatically. So this is kind of taking what we have in machine learning to the next level by basically giving the machine learning that we have more inputs. So what we're learning from today is mostly the content, the actual content that we're seeing in the platform. And what we will be adding here is learning from user feedback. So learning from active and passive user feedback. Passive user feedback being the feedback that the platform can just get from users in the site by interacting with the platform. So for example, you ignore a flag, right? That's a signal that there might be something about that flag that is not quite right. It's not it's not a 100% signal. It's not something where you can say, okay, turn off that rule. But it's an indication that this is something that you might possibly learn something from. Active user feedback is a more direct way of giving feedback, where we will have something in the sidebar where, instead of just ignoring a flag, you can additionally provide explicit feedback. So you can say, okay, I ignored this because it's not appropriate in this context, or I ignored this because this is a new term that I want to submit, for example. So passive and active user feedback, recording that in the platform, and then learning from that. One thing I think that's important here, us being, we will be training these models separately for each customer. So also in the cloud instances, this will be something that is separate for each customer, because we find that this is not something that you can share for many reasons, but particularly because the decisions you make and the feedback that you give are very specific to to your content, to the way that your brand voice works, etc. So what will we be releasing this year? Collecting user feedback through sidebar is the first step here. Very important one, and this will be something that already in itself is valuable. If you're an administrator, you can kind of review, okay, what's the user feedback that we have collected? Then the next step will be automating the preparation and refinement of guidance packages. So what we are currently doing in our back office, making that easier, automating a lot of that, and kind of just shortening that cycle. And then the next step is, while we're collecting that data, using our machine learning algorithms to tune guidance based on that. And again, this is something that will not be a black and white thing. So one first instance of this will be Acrolinx proposing changes to the guidance setup to the administrator or to the person that is making those decisions in your company. And then you can just say, okay, yeah, this looks like you've learned the right thing. This should be an exception to this rule in this context maybe, or for this type of content. Let's accept that and make that change. So that will be the first step of that. Okay, so before I move to the next one, and we'll have time for questions in the end, so if any questions on this, feel free to keep them for the end. We'll do a little quiz now, audience participation. We have seen that that's not so easy, so we're trying to use technology to make that a little easier. I don't know if any of you have smartphones or something like that. There's a URL here. You can go there. There's a very complicated registration form to fill out. I think you have to enter your name. You can use, kind of a pseudonym if you want. But it'd be nice if some of you participate. So the point is one of the features that we're going to release in this year, and it's around gamification. So the idea here is how do you drive continued user engagement with Acrolinx? And gamification is not the only answer, but it's one part of the answer. And one thing that we found interesting here is that once it's a proven concept to drive engagement. I think many of you likely have been victims of smart gamification techniques in mobile apps, for example. Some of them do that really well.
That force you to touch that cup, and then you're transported to this.
Yeah,
exactly.
that's you figured it out. Great. But some of you already do this quite successfully. So we have quite a number of customers who, for example, publish leaderboards of who got the largest number of perfect score documents, or who got the most use of Acrolinx. Can be around a number of things, or some customers are publishing leaderboards around for different departments. What's the content quality trend this week per department? So there's a number of things that you can do, and that some of our customers have been doing. So our plan is to actually integrate that into the platform as an integral part. This is some early designs to give you an idea of how this looks like. The whole thing will have two facets initially. One will be around a system of achievements. So for an individual user, you can get achievements for certain activities that you do in the platform. For example, if you submit feedback, right? We want to encourage users to submit feedback. That's really helpful because it helps everyone to get better results. And then you can get, a little badge if you've done that consistently, and can level up in the system. And there will be a number of these achievements that can be configured depending on whether it makes sense for you or not. The second thing will be, and then of course, will be a leaderboard system where you can see, for example, what level you are compared to your peers. You can see things like, what's my ranking this week and things like that. The focus here is not to use this as a measuring thing, but to inspire playful competition. So it's not something where you say, hey, you're in the bottom, whatever. It's focused on, how does the top of this leaderboard look like? And it's the idea is to inspire playful competition around getting value out of Acrolinx, essentially.
Yeah. And the most important part is it sounds like a gimmick, but it's about user engagement, and this is a big deal. When you try to implement any software, especially on an enterprise basis, you want people to use it, and you don't want to force them because, well, then they're using it, but that they just use it in a way that they can get it out of the way as quickly as possible. And you avoid it with just adding a little bit of fun. And it's also, we talk to other customers, and there's also many other aspects to this one. Finding out maybe finding out who of your colleagues you can use as a champion, because that person is really engaged in this sort of thing. So a couple of things underlying. But again, this is not a gimmick. It's a gimmick that works, and it's for user engagement.
Yeah. Good. So next up, and this is the final feature that we're just going to do in slides, is capture. So this is essentially a complete rework of the way that you that you set up Acrolinx, that you tell Acrolinx what your content goals are. And what we want to get away from is the situation that you see here, where you consult with Acrolinx, you tell us what do you want to do with your content, and then you have your Acrolinx wizard who kind of puts that into the system and sets everything up for you. That works fine, but it really doesn't help to scale. For example, if you want to involve more departments, or if you have new content groups, right? It would be so much easier if you can just do this yourself in the software. Now you can do quite a bit in the software today in the dashboard, but it's not, to be quite frank, it's not perfectly aligned with the way that we have found most of you would like to do it. So the idea here really is to align the software with the way that you think about your content goals. You talk about content strategy, about personas, etc. So make that much more directly accessible in the software. Remove the need for this translation process that you've seen, and focus on easy setup. For example, make it possible for you to say, okay, I have this existing guidance profile in the dashboard. Let me just make a variation of that and deploy that. Rename it, deploy that. Right? Today, that's a bit of a complicated process. We have to ship you a new guidance package. All of that will go away and will become a lot easier.
Yeah, we talked about A/B testing and trying out things, iterate on things, because again, you define what your strategy is and your goals are, but you need to have a way to change it once you have numbers to either that was successful or not. So it must be an easy way.
Exactly. So how will this look like? And again, this is not finished product. This is a mock-up. We will be working with some of you on, kind of getting early feedback on how this will look like. But there's a few key aspects here that I wanted to highlight. First of all, so create a single place where you can define your content goals and do it in the form of goals. So what are the goals with this content, right? A goal might be clarity. And then you can drill down and look at, okay, what are the individual aspects of clarity that I want to focus on or maybe not focus on. Another important aspect is that we will make it much easier to define specific scoring, specific priorities for a certain content, content type or guidance profile, by explicitly saying, okay, these are nice to have goals, these are must have goals. The nice to have goals don't influence your score. The must-have goals do, right? You might have some types of content where, okay, correct language, that's essential, that's a must-have that goes into your score. But there are other aspects that you don't want to score, but you still want to give the feedback, right? So today it's possible to change the way that Acrolinx weighs the different scores, but it's a global setting. It's in a kind of obscure place.
XML.
XML file. So, all of that will become directly accessible so that you can define the scoring right in that place. And we have seen that that's something, especially if you roll out across different groups and different parts of the organization, they have different ways to think about their content goals, right? And you want to reflect that explicitly in the platform. Finally, it's also something that helps us to make some of the innovation that we have in the platform just much more visible. So today, if we have a new type of thing that we can give feedback on, we have to put it into one of the existing buckets, right? We have a fixed set of buckets. We have style, grammar, terminology, etc. If you do something new, we have to put it into one of these buckets. Not very helpful, right? If we, for example, have something like clarity checking, then okay, well, let's put that to tone of voice. That's maybe the best category for that. But or if you check for very specific, like for example the emotional aspects of language, we could only put that into one of the existing buckets. That will change. You can explicitly define new groups of things that are important in your content, goals that are important in your content, and see them explicitly when you set up a guidance profile. Okay, so next up, content connections.
You know that there's another poll in here which might not work.
I know that, yes.
Okay.
I've been kind of mentally preparing for that.
Okay, good. You too, because you need to participate in a second, so.
Yeah. Anyway, but content connections, I wanted to say something about it. It's the name of the conference, but also I think it's an appropriate name for the feature that we have released. It's the fingerprint stuff that has been mentioned a few times yesterday and today. And kind of to kick it off, we will not do the poll. We will just show you the questions, quick show of hands. So if you think about your organization, how many just put your hands up when I go through the options. How many different systems does content live in your organization? Do you just have one system? Hands up. Wow. Perfect.
Congratulations.
James.
Yes.
I think that gets a special award. 2 or 3? Huh? Repositories. Yeah, repositories. If you take publication systems, then probably it gets even broader. So 2 or 3 systems, entire organization, great. Okay, few hands. 4 to 6. Okay, not too many hands. More than 6. Okay, yeah. That's what we suspected, and that's kind of what we find working with most customers. That okay, yes, there's a CMS, but there's 5 different CMSs and all the other things. So when you think about things like what Sean talked about, pulling analytics together on content performance, you really have to do it for each system and then do the correlation work for each different system. And one of the kind of very fundamental problems that you kind of run across is just identifying content across systems throughout the life cycle. And this includes publishing. So it's not just the repositories, but it's also once it's published. The idea that we have here is really simple. It's the idea of having a way to identify content that only looks at the content itself. So fingerprint is one analogy you could have, or like a DNA sequence. It's something that doesn't contain your content, but it's derived from your content, and you can use it to identify different versions, different instances of the same piece of content. We'll come to questions later, but I think it's time for our first little magic demo.
And I hope it works better than the polling. Okay,
It
shall
might.
we?
Yeah. Do you want to?
Yes.
Shall we
yes.
swap?
I'm looking forward
okay.
to. So this is a little bit of an interactive role play thing. Ulrich, we have this new product. I think it's a TV for pets. Don't ask. It's a new thing. Market analysis has shown that this will be awesome, not awful. And I need a press release for that.
Okay. When do you need it?
Like yesterday. About.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I should get on it right away.
Yeah, that would be awesome. And we can have a look in between at something. So this is a dashboard we are staring on. This is not a final version or anything. I have to make sure that's the right one. No.
Are there any requirements on quality or?
Oh yes, I mean
fast.
You know our requirements on quality. Please hit at least 80 or something green. I know you will be doing good. So
okay, I've got something. It's perfect.
Okay, just wait a second. So what you're seeing here is a not very stylish table, but it's an interesting one. And we're coming to this point. I will go through the columns and just tell you a little bit about this. And the most important one is the first one, which is called Document ID. Currently, we don't have any checks in the system. It's really blank. It's a demo system. Hopefully, it works. With every document we identify, we will create an ID. So if we, have 2 documents, you will see 2 IDs. If we have 4 documents, you will see 4 IDs. Look out for that one. Next one is the integration. Basically, from which direction came the check in here. And this is more organized in a kind of history of checks. So look for that. The document path is interesting because we all know these documents showing up in Acrolinx saying document 1 doc hundreds of times, and it's not the same document. Timer check and so on. This is kind of obvious. So have you checked?
I did. It's perfect.
Okay. Well, let's see about that one. So what you see right now is, hey, I have a document. What? And it's from email, and it's from Ulrich. And I wonder that we don't have a score.
You're looking at the wrong dashboard.
I do. What? So same goes for this dashboard. Document ID, check of time. I just have to blame the heat or Chris. So you see that document path is. Let us zoom in. It's a Google thing. So basically you check it in the email.
I write all my press releases in email.
Don't we have a system for that? Kind of a repository.
I forgot the login credentials.
Oh, okay. Can you send me that over because the score is also kind of subpar?
I sent it over.
Let me guess, via email?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
That's
sure.
how we distribute content throughout the organization.
Yeah, let me copy and paste that into maybe a Google Docs, so it's at least.
And this is unlike any workflow you would have in your company. Right?
I'm sure that you
never
all
send
have
documents by email.
a very, very proper setup. So let me give that a title and please work. The internet is crappy here. So while we're waiting, oh yeah, this is 77. Let me just, do a little bit correction here. So, by the way, don't do this at home. Don't just go there and click on stuff. I mean, it works. Hopefully, yes.
If you know what you're doing.
If you know what
you got it to 82.
Oh wow, it's as we might have prepared that. So yeah, read the document. At least try to. Okay, going back to the right dashboard. So now we're reloading this. Think about what you're expecting to see. We've copied that over from an email. Okay, that was the time to think about it. So you see now that all we have done is, from the perspective of Acrolinx, the same document, the same content. You see the past had changed. It doesn't matter.
I think the key thing pointed out again is that there's just one document ID.
Yes. So, and now.
Has pointers as well as one. That's interesting.
Yeah, that's
Of course.
So let's continue the story. Now I've made correction on this. So basically, this was my editorial process. Now I'm throwing it back to someone to release it. Ulrich,
yes.
Might you be able to release it? I will share that document.
You mean publish on our website?
Oh yes, with the new,
Or with that web content management system that
Yes. Let me share that document with you. Should be shared.
I might remember how to use that. Okay.
Cool. To remember, our web CMS has basically a backend integration with Acrolinx. So every time we put something on there, this will be automatically processed and make sure that nobody, submits something which is not up to par. So going back here, and have you?
I'm not done yet.
Okay.
I
Wow.
I have to move it from your Google Doc thing to the web CMS, right?
Okay.
This
is
is
where
not
you-
easy.
This is where you see that's actually a live demo and not a video. So
Okay,
yeah,
I'm hitting the check-in button now.
cool.
It should be on the website in a few seconds.
Okay,
It
cool.
is.
Wow. So, I mean, that was basically what we expected to see. You haven't even given that a name, which is fine. We still can track that.
Is metadata important?
Well, I didn't expect that. I think some of the people in the audience would say yes. I would agree. So again, what have you seen here? This is basically making the content the identification and not any path, any metadata, because, hey, if you have one system and are able to track everything with one ID, you're awesome. But nobody has. And that's the challenge. I mean, it's a great idea, but ideal. But you know, to be fair, we have homegrown CMSs. We have different departments who just work differently. We send around stuff via Word, via email, via whatever. And
Can you refresh, just while you talk?
Oh, okay. What have you done?
New product press release, metadata.
Oh yeah. Okay. Awesome.
That,
Awesome.
Metadata to be included.
which illustrates the point that title completely changed, and again, it's the same document.
Yeah.
But what is it actually? What does the title actually tell you about the content? Other than
In this case, nothing.
it's new, but
Yeah.
that's it.
Yes. And we can also turn it around.
Yeah, I mean, how can you? I mean, this all looks nice, but how can you?
It could be that
How
we
can
coded
you
the
tell
system
this is
just to
not
have
fake?
one.
It just puts everything into the
It's just
same
one.
bucket.
It's
Can
just one
Can you
document.
prove that this is not a fake demo?
I think I can. I take different piece of content, obviously prepared because cannot write that fast. I will put that that content directly into the document I've used just a second ago.
Something you would never do. Just take an existing document, put
You
some other
would.
content in. No.
You would never reuse path document one. Okay, so let's check that. And you know, we will have guidance, but currently we're not too interested in that one. What we want to see is we have used the same path as this one, which you see immediately. But it's a new document. It's a new content because, yeah, it's actually new content. So we're tracking that content, and I can easily go back, revert my changes if undo happens, and you know, add something new. It doesn't matter. This will be now tracked on the existing document because yes, it's a slight variation, but it's still the same
Have
thing.
you tried this before?
I just went with it. Yeah,
Oh,
cool, awesome, it works.
It works.
Yeah, so that is that. We also wanted to show the other dashboard.
Yes.
So you see now here basically the history of the content. Wherever that was, you can track it. You can even dive into and see are there any inefficiencies. And now looking
I
at
think
this one.
maybe something about these dashboards. So this is not the final look of the dashboards. It's meant to illustrate how the fingerprinting works. I don't know. Do you want to talk about this one? Should I?
Go for it.
Go
I
for
will
it.
jump in.
So the idea here is to kind of illustrate this idea. I think we've had it once or twice in the past 2 days around this idea of content velocity, right? Lots of people talk about content velocity. There's a number of different definitions. We could do another quiz, but we won't. But the point here is that if you have these fingerprints that allow you to identify a document in Acrolinx every time you see it, no matter, you know, is this kind of in the early conception phase where you're just emailing ideas back and forth, or is this something that's already published on the website, you're able to track the time that it takes from, you know, for a document to travel through the different stages. You can also see if, you know, things happen in your workflow that you wouldn't expect, like, you know, a piece of content that's already, you know, in some CMS, suddenly having variations being emailed around and things like that, right? So you have a great way to look at the life cycle of content. This again is on a kind of, you know, more for a demo on a very kind of atomic basis where you look at every single document and all the things that happen to that document. But if you imagine what you can do with this data, so you can see the entire history of that demo we had, right? The document started at 9:36. I think this is GMT. In an email, it went to a Google Docs, went to a web content management system, and you can see the time, the elapsed time that it took to get there, right? So you can get some idea of, okay, so what's the velocity if I do that across many documents that I you know, that travel through the content systems in my organization. You can get an idea of what are the average times that, that content takes to get from this phase to another phase, for example?
All right, with that, we shall go on.
Okay. You mean more PowerPoint?
I think we do more PowerPoint, and I think this is your part. I think I'm done here.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Bye-bye.
I have that new game which I need to test, so...
Okay, all right. So the idea here is really to not just identify content, but make it possible to connect content through different systems. And you can think about something like, if you think about the applications for this, it's things like reuse, identifying potentially duplicate content. 2 weeks ago in Boston, someone had this idea of, hey, you could do something like a social content graph where you kind of track the relationships between a piece of content, where it originated and kind of when, different versions were made and where that traveled in my organization. So it's kind of, it's something kind of like a foundational technology that I think opens a lot of possibilities. Mainly for analytics, but also for reuse and, just understanding how content kind of life cycles actually work in your organization. Okay, final part is Acrolinx apps. This is something that we're going to release later this year. This is a slide from my presentation last year, where I talked about what's the vision for the Acrolinx platform. And as the title also of our presentation today suggests, platform really is a kind of very fundamental topic for us. And platform for us means mainly two things. Opening up Acrolinx using APIs so that you can programmatically use it, you can integrate it everywhere, you can build on top of it. And secondly, and this is what we're going to show you today, is opening up Acrolinx for apps. And this could be apps that you create, this could be apps that partners create, this could be apps that we create, and either as something that's customized for you or something that's standard product functionality. It's opening up the platform to make adding additional functionality a lot easier. We've had some customers who had who are using some early instances of apps, for example, to integrate systems like Market News was mentioned yesterday. But the main idea here is that you already have this interface to all of your content creators, right? We have integrations into 30 plus different tools where content is created, where your knowledge workers are working. Having the ability to build apps in Acrolinx makes it very easy to give them additional functionality. And there's lots of ideas that we've heard, from very simple things like, hey, can I just see the expected reading time for a piece of content that I'm working on for the audience that I'm currently targeting? Very simple. Some people want that, some don't. So if you make that available as an app, you can just have that if you want it. Detecting plagiarized content, integrating your existing SEO tools, might be a Bright Edge, might be a Market News. Maybe connecting this to translation workflows, maybe having services to summarize content if you, if you're interested in something like that. But basically, any additional functionality that is not core Acrolinx functionality, being able to make that available as an app. And one of the nice aspects here is that this will also make it easy for us to, make new functionality available that is maybe not core for everyone, but where we have, a segment of customers that really want this. We can very easily build an app and publish it as an app. And to make this whole concept work is, in our opinion, very important that it's easy to build these apps. Right? We want essentially everyone to be able to build apps. Now you need a little bit of, let's say general IT savviness, but this should not be something where you need a development team and you have months and months of work, and then maybe sometimes you have a prototype. But this should be something where you can get a basic app, like for example calculating reading time, done in a few hours. Not having to spend weeks or months of development time. So big focus on APIs that make this easy. Big focus on having templates that make it easy for a developer to get started. Really make this easy. And of course, this is also something that's very interesting for partners, where they can offer functionality that is complementary to what Acrolinx does as an app that's available in Acrolinx. So let's do some more live magic, we hope. Peter, are you back from your?
I need to finish that game here. I think anyone can do it. So.
Okay. So what I want to get done
Just
really.
Need to exit the presentation.
Okay. I see.
Uh-huh.
Oh, right.
Yeah, that thing. Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'll do that. It looks nice on this screen.
Yes, I'm certainly sure that is.
Got it. Okay, so what I want to get done is build an app that makes Wikipedia available in the sidebar. Now, Wikipedia is kind of an artificial example, but think of some existing knowledge resource that you may have in your organization, and you just say, okay, people really find it inconvenient to have to go to a separate website and kind of look up stuff there. We want to have this available right in the sidebar. Well, now that Peter is not available,
Yeah, I still
maybe
need to
someone
catch
else can
that
help.
thing.
Chris, could you possibly build an app? Yes, that'd be great. I mean, we want to make this point that kind of everyone can build an app.
You can. You can win some points.
I don't know how I feel about this.
It's very simple. I give you the specs
So
as you do it. So
if
I want
then
Wikipedia in the sidebar.
go to 100. No, that's basic.
No,
Commodore
it's
64. We're
Javas-
talking about Commodore 64 last.
JavaScript is the answer.
Okay. Easy for marketing person.
Hey, you did it.
Oh, come on, people. Yes.
Are you on Wikipedia? As a building. Great, thank you, Chris.
I'm technical now.
Thank you.
So the point here is, and this is just for clarification, this is not what your end users will have to do. They won't have to drag and drop stuff to the sidebar to build apps. No, a lot easier, even easier. So this is the developer experience. So if you have a developer that wants to get started with building apps, starting is as easy as taking an existing web app or just a website, dragging it onto the sidebar, and off you go. Now, there's a little more you can do because this is not extremely interesting, right? There's no interaction with the content. It's it's just essentially showing that Wikipedia in the sidebar. So I think to make it more interesting, I need an actual little more technical person.
I
Peter?
can jump in. Also,
you
the
jump
game
in?
threw me out. The Wi-Fi is really terrible here.
Okay,
so,
then
you know.
why that would be so
I try that.
great.
So again, this is not what all of you need to do.
Can you dim the light in the front?
I can try to.
I can do that, yeah. Or do you want to? Okay.
That might take a while, by the way. It looks. They don't want to see me. They want to see the code. So
And real developers work in environments like this, and they work in
okay, what you're seeing here is kind of a typical setup of a developer. You have an IDE. We have a little bit of code, and yes, we also have prepared an application which is currently separate from Acrolinx. Let me open this. This is a word cloud. Fanciest thing, people like it. Don't know why, but it seems to be a thing. But we want to, now my task is to put it in to the sidebar, and also make it interact with.
make it a word cloud of the actual content.
Exactly. So let me do the first step. As Chris already has shown, this is fairly straightforward. So now basically my code runs in that environment. But now I need to transfer this to a real Acrolinx app. And it's actually pretty simple. Some of you might have a little bit of developing background. For the ones who don't, just take some words and spit it out later. It sounds fantastical. So we will just implement, basically, we use the API and implement one method. This is create Acrolinx app. And since these great IDEs today are that fantastic, I don't need to type anything really. I just use autocomplete, which is awesome. So now we give that thing a title. Ulrich, give me a title.
Corporate word cloud.
Oh my God.
There's an R missing.
Okay. Where's an R?
Before the P. Yeah. So the idea here is that there's now a new mandate that every document has to be prefaced by a corporate word cloud so that you can get an idea of what's in the document right away.
And it sounds funny, and it sounds not so funny if you think about your, things which you sometimes have to do. So, I just, this basically reloading is done automatically. This is also kind of new fancy stuff which developers today do. But you see immediately that the name corporate word cloud comes up. So, that's okay. So now let's do a little bit more. Now we really want to interact with the text. And what we are doing right now is using the API and use a provided event. Event is basically a thing which is triggered, and then we basically say, yeah, we want to do something on this one. The event is on text extracted. I hope I don't misspell that. Awesome. And then I enter this. No, I will be there in a second. What was that? Yes, awesome. So we just use the event. Currently, I don't do anything with this event. Just let's see how the application reacts to this. Already, since we are using now the event, this thing changes because now it says, oh, okay, there's an interaction with the content, so I have a check. So now let's use that. This line here, the render thing, that is basically displaying all the word cloud thing. We will move that down into our event, and now only when we check, this thing will show up. And now the last step is actually make use of the content, and this is very easy because the content basically is given to us over the event. Event, text, straightforward. So now we wait for that to be reloading. Now we press the check. And then you actually see that the content interacts with whatever I've written.
How can I see that that's the content here? Can you add something?
I can add magic. I can try to add magic.
Okay. Add it a few times, yeah. Makes it bigger.
Yes.
Bigger magic.
Bigger magic. Bigger is always better. And there it is, magic.
Cool. Very nice. Can you change the icon and the label of the button? That doesn't really fit.
Sure, I can do this. So first of all, the icon, I think I just want to grab this one. This is basically just putting the right resources at the right place. I have to do this one, but now we have a cloud, which is nice. Yes, I can change the button and say, hey, not Sutton, button, button, and basically say,
Generate would be nice. Because it's not checking, right?
Yes, I need to get clear with this keyboard. Oh my God, I'm a Windows user.
What?
That is recorded again, right? Oh, damn. Okay, let's change the text of the button. What do you want to have, Ulrich?
Generate.
Okay. Very corporate. Awesome. Now this is reloading, and you know what's happening. So,
nice.
So we will provide an API. Basically, you have influence about every aspect. You can have tooltips, you can have interactions, but that's not that is just the idea, and we drive it a little bit forward because what we have done right now is we've taken the content and basically processed this within this application.
I have a new requirement.
Okay.
we have lots of non-native writers who don't understand what they're writing. Could you add a translation using our new machine translation service that just shows an English translation or German translation would be even better?
Okay,
On the side.
I can do this. And I mean, obviously that is prepared, but what it should tell you is now we're using an external service. Something which, Acrolinx didn't provide. We just use it because we might have paid for it or whatever. That actually tells you that whatever you like to bring to the, and we need to stop, that was a stop sign right now. Whatever.
We have 5 more minutes since we started late, so.
Whatever we like to bring to our editors and to the content, we can. And I think this is really powerful. For example, there's also a way of extending and trying out new things, like the thing Sabine talked about, the Acrolinx, which is now basically then available in the sidebar, and you get a little bit of more insight about your emotions in the content. So, I think.
Thank you.
Well, yeah, I mean,
It's just the announcement of our talk, right? So.
Okay, wrapping up, giving it over to you.
So just a quick wrap up. So of course, we're thinking about, once you have this capability to have apps, you will likely have more than one. So there will be interfaces to have, switch between different apps, have shortcuts to access them, etc. All of that is in the making. The way to deploy them will be through the dashboard. So once a developer has built an app, as an administrator, you can deploy an app through the dashboard, determine who can use that app, who cannot use that app, etc. So all of that will be centrally deployed as you would expect. We have one more interactive element here, which I think we will skip for 2 reasons.
It isn't working.
This would be really nice, right?
It would be, yeah.
The point here is to collect some ideas for, looking at this, do you have any ideas what you would like to see as an app? Is there functionality that would be useful for you? My suggestion would be that you, if you have time for questions, you just place them there, or you just email them to us after the conference.
Yeah, or just come by.
Yeah, or just come by. We will be here all afternoon, but we are very, very interested to hear about any ideas that you have for what apps would be useful in your context. All of this will be available this summer, shortly, next month, maybe?
Summer.
Yeah, summer, okay. Yeah, I know. I'm not supposed to say more. But if you're interested in this, let us know. And if you feel you have something that might be useful in your organization, we can help you get started with the APIs, etc. Now, someone asked me that yesterday when I talked about the idea. Of course, at some point this will be something where we, kind of the vision of this is that there will be an app exchange where partners can publish apps. You can just purchase them in the app exchange, add them to your deployment, etc. But let's say that's a little further out. Okay, good. So I think looking at the time, we have no time for questions, but maybe, Frank, your decision if you want to allow a handful.
Sure, as you promised. Thanks a lot, Ulrich and Peter.